He says he did nothing wrong.
I saw that there was data. I saw that it was different than ours. And that was really the extent of what I learned.
The Sanders campaign turning the tables, filing a lawsuit against the DNC, accusing the party of trying to help Clinton by cutting Sanders off from those crucial voter lists. Overnight, the DNC overturning that decision.
This is unacceptable. Individual leaders of the DNC can support Hillary Clinton in any way they want, but they are not going to sabotage our campaign.
And the head of the DNC firing right back.
It's baffling to me that they would be hurling accusations at us. Our responsibility, my responsibility, is to make sure that the integrity of that voter file is restored and preserved.
Yeah, accusations are just flying this morning. This is being described as a football team getting a hold of a rival's playbook ahead of the big game. This is really valuable campaign data that we are talking about, Dan and Paula. Not something you want your rivals to get a hold of.
Yeah, a lot of fodder, I'm sure, for tonight's debate as well. And Cecilia, overnight, so the DNC conceded they restored Sanders' campaign access to those files in the database. So we would all assume that this case is now closed, right?
Yeah, but hardly. The Clinton team is not letting go. They say their data was stolen. They want an audit, and pending the outcome of that audit, they say they want disciplinary action taken against their rivals. This is not going away anytime soon. Certainly not before the big stage here tonight.
Safe to say, I would say.
Not over. All right, Cecilia, thank you.
All right, for more on this, let's bring in ABC News political analyst Matthew Dowd, who is in Manchester, New Hampshire this morning. Matt, good morning. I guess my question is, first, does this hurt Sanders as we head into this debate, and do you expect Clinton to try to capitalize tonight?
Well, I think it's probably a small dent in the van of the anti-establishment van that he has. I think his supporters right now were going to stay with him. He actually may be able to raise some money off of this based on the fact that he was shut out of it. I think in the end for both campaigns, this is like a kidney stone that they want to pass fairly quickly because it's not helpful to either one to get in this tussle prior to this debate tonight. I would expect Bernie Sanders to bring this up at some point in the debate tonight.
Thank you for invoking the kidney stone this morning on morning television. We appreciate that. Let me ask you, aside from the database story, what does each candidate need to do tonight, especially given Clinton's truly commanding lead in the polls?
Yeah, she has a huge lead. I think first Hillary Clinton needs to do no harm. She needs to go into this debate and basically not make a mistake. With the lead she has, she just needs to try to run out the clock in the course of this, and also to begin to speak to general election voters. I think she needs to start turning her campaign towards independent voters. I think Bernie Sanders needs to actually find some ways to draw some really sharp contrasts with Hillary Clinton. He needs a way to get back in the game, especially in Ohio. And I think Martin O'Malley at this point, who's far down in the polls, needs to figure out just ways to preserve his political legacy, to end this campaign in a way that's positive. And I think that would be his main goal in debate tonight.
Yeah, let's not forget there is a third person on the stage tonight. Before we let you go, though, I want to ask about the Republicans. There's a new Fox poll that shows Donald Trump with a giant lead nationally, 39%. Is this surge driven in part by his controversial plan to ban Muslims from entering the country?
Well, it seems to, no matter what he seems to say, he's been growing in support. He's been growing since August. I think what you're seeing is a majority of Republican voters actually support his proposal to ban all Muslims. And I think what Donald Trump is becoming is no longer the outside of the GOP. He is becoming the mainstream of the GOP. His positions now represent the mainstream part of the GOP. And that's what I think the establishment is struggling with.
They are struggling indeed. Matt Dowd, thank you very much. We'll get much more of your analysis as this day and evening continues.
I believe that's why we call him Teflon Trump, right, Dan?
Teflon Don.
That's right. Well, tonight's Democratic debate, the third and final of the year, will be moderated by ABC World News Tonight anchor David Muir and our chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz. They join us from Manchester with a preview. Good morning.
Good morning, Dan and Paula, and we have our questions just about ready for the candidates. A lot of breaking news in these last 24 hours, and the campaigns are spending their final hours preparing their strategies before they take the stage behind us.
As America decides who will get the Democratic nomination for president, there are so many important things on the minds of voters here in New Hampshire and all across the country, and we will be asking Secretary Clinton, Senator Sanders, and Governor O'Malley about those important issues.
And we're going to have an audience of about 1,000 voters right here at St. Anselm College in Manchester, and of course we hope millions more at home in their living room. And it might just get a little heated here tonight.
It might. So join George Stephanopoulos, David, and me tonight live from New Hampshire.
In the meantime, Dan and Paula, back to you.
I'm sure it's going to get a little heated. And again, that debate will be moderated by David and Martha. Our coverage starts with George Stephanopoulos at 8 Eastern right here on ABC. And tomorrow morning, George will be hosting a special edition of This Week with presidential candidates Donald Trump, Governor Chris Christie, as well as Senator Bernie Sanders. And now we move to President Obama's meeting with relatives of the victims in the San Bernardino massacre. The president and First Lady Michelle Obama, they held a private meeting with the families before making their way to Hawaii for the holidays. And with that attack fresh on everyone's mind, this scene that you're seeing playing out in LA certainly looked terrifying. It was a counter-terrorism drill. And ABC's Kana Whitworth joins us from LA. And Kana, these exercises are more important, more prominent than ever.
Paula, they absolutely are. And good morning to you. After this drill, the mayor was speaking out, saying, in part here, that we're not waiting for new threats to train. They want to ensure that we can have peace of mind where we live, where we work, hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. Overnight, President Obama visiting with families of the victims of the San Bernardino terror plot.
Despite the pain and the heartache that they're feeling, they could not have been more inspiring.
The devastation from that attack and the one in Paris fresh in the minds of law enforcement agencies as they carried out massive counterterrorism drills.
Well, it certainly is the current state of events.
In New York, the newly created Strategic Response Group, or SRG, conducted drills of its own. The unit of 800 personnel specializing in everything from crowd control to radiation detection. Officers in LA County testing force and preparedness.
Highway Patrol, ready? Your rig's ready? Okay, fire's ready?
We're preparing for a Paris-type, Mumbai-style attack where it's coordinated, it's synchronized, there's multiple targets.
About an hour after the initial call went out, the Sheriff's Department is now here, so that completes their Tactical Operations Center. The first thing they'll do is a debrief.
Well, I'm going to give you the mission for our team in just a moment.
This is the Nerve Center. Their responsibility is regional. Communication is key. Deployments mission-specific, especially in the scenario practiced here, where they have two separate incident points and active shooters.
The ability to have good, fluid game plans that can change as you move along, really important.
Exercise, exercise, exercise.
They will all be deployed to an area near Los Angeles International Airport, a high-value target with global implications.
Call it 1400 right now, and we're in motion.
The LAPD also planning to send a team to Paris to meet with authorities there to learn more about preventing terrorist attacks. Dan?
Kana, thank you. Let's get straight to the news this morning about the so-called most hated man in America. Martin Shkreli shot to fame or infamy after dramatically hiking the price of a life-saving drug owned by a company he ran. Then he got arrested. Then he got fired, and overnight he hit the internet with a rather interesting live stream. And ABC's Mara Skivacampo is on the story. Hey, Mara.
Hey, Dan, interesting indeed. He was speaking, he was playing a guitar, just hanging out overall for hours. Shkreli is an avid live streamer, and on Friday he took to YouTube to give his followers an update in an almost 5-hour stream. But one thing he did not discuss, those very serious allegations of fraud that have been brought against him.
I can't really talk about business or any allegations or anything like that. I can't answer any questions about that whatsoever.
This morning, Martin Shkreli, the disgraced hedge fund CEO and so-called bad boy of pharmaceuticals, turning heads.
Yeah, good to be back.
Live streaming himself on YouTube Friday, less than 24 hours after getting out of jail on $5 million bail.
Sorry I couldn't live stream yesterday. Had a lot going on.
He sure did. On Friday, the 32-year-old resigned from his post as CEO of Torii Pharmaceuticals, the company that blew up the price of a life-saving drug by 5,000% to $750 per tablet. Shkreli was arrested Thursday morning on unrelated fraud charges.
Shkreli essentially ran his companies like a Ponzi scheme.
But those allegations didn't appear to faze him.
You've been super supportive.
Yesterday, on his live stream, Shkreli was seen talking on the phone, playing internet games, and strumming his guitar. But those Those charges are no laughing matter. Court documents allege that the top exec scored millions from investors, and when he lost their money through a series of bad trades, he took money from new investors to pay off the old ones. And then he launched a company called Retrofin, acquiring old drugs and selling them for higher prices, according to investigators, using that money to pay off his hedge fund investors. Shkreli has pleaded not guilty to the